Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Leftovers, Season 3, Episode 7. It is called The Most Powerful Man in the World and His Identical Twin Brother. Full
We're back.
spoilers, yeah, but we are back, yeah. He's so eager to be back, they didn't even let me give him a spoiler warning before we jumped in.
Who cares about that?
Yeah. Uh, what is it? Has it been 3 weeks since we recorded the last one?
Don't know. It's felt like a while.
It feels like a while. I was really appreciative of the previously on segment at the start of the
Yep.
episode.
Yep.
It was useful. Um, so we're back. The plan right now as well, if you're concerned that there's going to be another big gap before the next episode, the plan right now is to record again next week, so that it'll just be the 1 week gap, just a normal gap, right, without
Yes.
another big break. Barring unforeseen events, and we have tried to foresee a lot of things in the next week that could surprise us.
Yeah. We have just spent a good half hour planning, going, we're getting this here. We can do it. We can do it,
Yeah,
right?
and not even specifically just to fit in the last leftover, just because we're worried about our schedule, because Netflix might surprise us with a show unannounced, which I hate. Just announce it in advance. Let us plan for things. It's annoying, but uh, barring anything unforeseen, mucking it up, we should be able to do the finale next week. So hopefully that's the case. But here we are. So this is episode 7. It's the penultimate episode of the entire show. So that's a big thing. And it obviously focuses primarily with Kevin getting into the afterlife, or just for lack of a better term, we'll call it the afterlife, even though arguably it's not really the afterlife.
Yeah, yeah. I would call it the other place.
The other place. Yeah, yeah. If we're going to make Lost references, I feel like the other place, that
I
works.
did not realize that was a Loft reference.
A Lost reference.
I can't speak tonight, apparently.
It's funny actually, because I would say that this other place actually does remind me a lot of something that was in the final season of Lost, actually. Just the concept of this place. But I just want to point out, just because Damon Lindelof obviously is a showrunner behind both.
Yeah.
It's just curious that there's a connection in that sense with it. But so Kevin is into this place with his mission to tell Evie that she's loved by her father, to find out where the missing kids lost, put their shoes where the shoes are, but mainly get Christopher Sunday and learn the final part of the song so that Kevin Senior can sing it and save the world.
Yeah.
That's this.
Sounds insane when you say it like that, doesn't it?
That's this episode. And we spend most of it in this other place. It does actually break it up at one point. Kevin actually comes back to the real world for a bit, and then
Yeah, a
submerges
whole 2
himself.
minutes.
Yeah, submerges himself again underwater to finish his mission. Um, so obviously there's a lot to kind of process with this one. At the top of the list, the dick scanner being
Yeah. Let's start with priority one.
priority number one, which is clearly priority number one in Kevin's head. Because basically, as I was going through this episode, I'm like, real or not, and I'm almost leaning towards not at this point actually, because I feel like this entire thing is basically just a metaphor for Kevin's psyche, because the whole thing is that he has to think of his mind like a maze, right? And
Yeah.
Kevin's whole thing with the entire show is that he doesn't talk about himself or his problems. He bottles it up, and it's self-destructive, and it's led to everything that we've seen him go through, basically, right?
Yeah.
We open with this flashback with him and Nora in the bathtub. When they were their happiest or thereabouts, and
Yeah.
they're kind of being flirty, but they're talking about what they want to do when they die. Like, she wants to be cremated, he wants to be stuffed and put on display, and she jokes about him wanting to give him a beard, which is a nice little touch. But it's kind of this idea that instead of just talking about how they actually feel, they're joking about it. They both kind of have this problem. They're both guilty of this. They don't want to talk about what their problems are, and that's kind of what's led to them in this really bad place right now with them. And I feel like this whole episode is Kevin fighting through the maze of his own goddamn mind to kind of finally admit what his problem is, because obviously later on it all boils down to this sort of romance novel that he's kind of written in this world. And the part that really stuck out to me was the part where he's a coward. He doesn't want to admit that, so he dresses up in the costume of a brave man. And I love how it cut to him in the police uniform right as it said that.
Yeah.
So I think to me, so the joke here, what I'm getting to the dick scanner is like, I like the humour that to access his deepest, most personal feelings, he has to whip out his dick to get there. I don't know. Like, I feel like that represents something, but it also represents nothing. It's just a joke. But at the same time, I feel like, oh, it kind of represents something. Like, to get to that, he has to kind of, like, the whole idea that men judge themselves on their libido and, like, all the rest of it. And, like, I don't know. I feel like there's something there.
I think just as a semi defense of it still being real, because I agree. Like, I'm perfectly willing to accept this is just in his head. This is his psyche, like you're saying. But if it is real, I like the idea that maybe it's personalized for each person. This world. Yeah. So it's still, he's influencing it. You know, this dick scanner is still coming from his mind. This romance novel is still from his mind. But it is real as well.
Just this idea that he has to, like, do a face scan, a dick scan, answer the questions, get into this building that has multiple security guards. He's the president. It's like the football with the scanner and the voice recognition and everything. All of it's just to get to this briefcase with this novel that kind of tells him how he really feels. Like, his feelings are that secured. More secure than anything in real life actually is.
Right, and the point is, you know, once he kind of gets this, he's like, I don't need to come back here anymore. He's kind of, okay, I know who I am now. I've dealt with this. I've confronted this. I don't need to keep it hidden away
that's
anymore.
The entire episode. He's finally kind of realizing what his problem is the entire time. And obviously the whole idea that he's two people in this, he's two Kevins. Well, first of all, you got the identical twin brother thing, which goes back to that joke that, you know, quote unquote God said about, you know, Jesus never came back. He just had an identical twin brother. Yeah. It goes kind of back to that, and
which again is one of those things where you could go, oh no, this is real
because
in
it's
some
his
way,
voice, and he met him in here before.
Yeah, and also just to go back to this, you know, the whole idea is, to Matt's book, Kevin is the new Jesus.
Yeah. And just the idea that in the because we never heard what he whispered to him in season 2 on the bridge, and we find out here that he said to him that he was the most powerful man in the world. But there's this whole thing here again. I think you can easily look into this whole idea of he can transfer to the other version of Kevin. One is the secret assassin that he was before, and then the other one is the president of the United States. And it's like the guilty remnant have got a president in office, and he's dressed in a white suit.
I thought it was a nice touch.
Yeah, it was really good. It was all this stuff. It's like, oh yeah, we've outlawed families because we don't believe in families, and just all these insane things that they would
destroyed
do.
the idea of marriage.
Yeah, if they were in power, what was all these crazy things they would do? So you've got that, but the whole way he transfers between them is reflections. He looks into a reflection. We have obviously. It took us so long to learn his name, and now I have no idea what it is because it took us so long.
Dog Shooty Man.
Dog Shooty Man, Baldy. He's like there, and he's this agent guy who's trying to, like, instruct him and say, oh, you've got to assassinate the president, and then we find out he's the president, so it's this weird thing where he needs to assassinate himself. But obviously it mirrors, reflective. The idea he's reflecting on himself. That's the whole point of this episode. There's a really obvious sort of metaphors to take from all that.
This show has always had some obvious metaphors in that sense. It's done good things with them, but it's always had them.
Yeah. So again, the dick scanner, the idea that the dick is the most private part of your body if you're a man, and that's what you.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, first of all, it's kind of a meta joke as well, because there's I don't know if you can call them rumors or it's just well known, but that Justin Theroux's just got a big cock. So this is just kind of like them poking fun at it.
Yeah, because you've got the guy kind of going. He goes, "I'll look away," and then he glances down. And he kind of goes.
And on top of that, the line of dialogue, because he's the Secret Service guy. It's the sheriff from Australia, the one who got killed. His line of dialogue I thought was particularly inspired, because he explains why there's a dick star. He's like, oh yeah, obviously we do the face scanner, but if someone with enough money can recreate someone's face, but your penis, well, no one's going to go to that length.
That's good.
That's a good line. It's a good line. And obviously the answer to the third question, because he's got these security questions, and the first one's like, what was the first one? I forget the first one. The second one was the movie.
Yeah, second one was the movie. First one was...
Oh, pet, and he didn't have one because his mother was allergic. Yeah. But the third one is, who's your Secretary of Defense? And he's like...
And this is the one where I really feel like it's saying it's not real. Because it's like, well, this should be common knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah, and instead it's more about he's almost picking it there and then, and that's why it's right.
Yeah, it's like, well, could he have said anyone and it'd be right, and that person would show up?
And that's when Patty, He says Patty, and sure enough, it's Patty, and she's there. And she even referenced, because I was like, confused, like, yeah, but he sent her, he helped her move on in the well. But then she actually says out loud, "Oh, you brought me out of retirement to come and help you with this." And I'm like, did he just do that? Was that literally what just happened when he said her name?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then we find out the vice president's Meg. I'm like, oh, I love Tyler's back. It's been a while since I've seen you.
Yeah.
You know, all these things. But we find out that they're there to destroy the world. They're going to launch nukes. They're basically going to do a Skynet. Because the whole thing in Terminator was that Skynet made nukes launch so that the other side would launch and, like, you know, everyone dies. At least that was in one of them. I think eventually they changed it just so that Skynet just nuked everyone. Skynet just got control.
Yeah.
And nuked everyone. But, so he's there to initiate this, and he's kind of obviously refusing to do it. He's like, I'm not going to DEFCON 1, we're at DEFCON 3, and we're just going to stick there.
We're going to stay here. We got this under control.
Yeah, and we have this whole thing where the identical twin brother who's coming, the assassin, which by the way, I love that he grabs her glasses so he can look in the reflection to like transition back.
Yeah, it's great.
To him, who's
just on time.
Yeah, up in the sniper perch across the street. And then he has to get in. And I love that he goes to the face scanner again. He's like, okay, that's it. He's like, oh, crap, yeah, the the dick scanner. I need to do that again. But he's coming in and he sort of like... He has the little thing where he's got God in his ear, literally. Because that was the funny thing where Meg says that she loves God. That's who she's in love with. And you just hear him over the comms go, tell her I love her too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, and obviously we were already aware that this was that guy who was calling himself God. We knew that already, but obviously he didn't know that. So this was him learning that this is how this person thinks of themselves. Yeah.
And he ends up shooting Meg as well. Right after Meg saved his ass because the Secret Service are about to take care of him.
Yeah. It's pretty cold.
It's pretty cold. But, it's just, I think you can look into, like, why each character's this persona in here. What do they represent to Kevin? Because I think when he knew Meg was this kind of, like, he was the one that maybe he could save and sort of bring back out of the guilty remnant. But if you remember back to season 1, that was kind of a thing. So the idea now she's the one who's saying, no, this is crazy, why are you doing this? And it's Patty's the one who wants to, like, destroy the world. And it's like, no, press the doomsday button, let's do it. So you can sort of compare things between what they've been in the show before and what maybe... It's kind of like what they were to Kevin, what Kevin hoped it would be. Because I think there was a time when Kevin feared that Patty was this, when he just feared that she was out to do the worst thing possible.
Yeah, and then she never really was.
Yeah, I mean, she was getting people to kill themselves, so there was bad things happening.
There was, but not to quite this extent. But I guess this is where at least Kevin sees the logical conclusion of her thinking.
Yeah. So it's the whole idea as well that the reason why it's the guilty remnant in here is because their whole thing was don't forget, and what he kind of realizes that he was kind of like in that same kind of like, because the entire show is survivor's guilt. We've said this before, and it's kind of that same thing. I think what's interesting with Kevin though, to sort of separate him from Nora, is that I think Kevin already kind of felt that way, like because he was already in a crisis beforehand.
He never lost anyone in the same way, not physically.
No, he had already kind of lost his family by, or at least his wife by his own head. Like, they hadn't split up yet, but he'd already kind of like...
He was there already in his mind.
Yeah, in his mind he was already gone. And I think it's interesting that the rest of the world just kind of caught up to him almost through
and departure. Like, obviously everyone else was just completely screwed up after that day.
Yeah.
And he was just like, okay, cool.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's just basically it. And I actually do love that this all boils down to, so she convinces them they're sitting at opposite ends of the table, and it's Kevin versus Kevin, which again I think is fantastic in the sense that it harkens back to this whole idea that there's been two Kevins the whole time. The whole thing where he was blacking out and then you'd have the other Kevin doing something. But the idea
and one was really cold and just really calculating and just did things. But
the simpler thing is that they're both really him, and I think you could actually argue which one was technically the real Kevin, which one was the one we never saw before. Was the assassin the cold one that we never saw before? Was the president the cold one we never saw before? And I think this episode's kind of telling us that they're both kind of him. They're just both him.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think your initial thing is to say the president, because we don't see anything of the president really except when it's Kevin. Whereas the assassin, we kind of know, oh, well, he's an assassin. It's like he's cold. We kind of get that. But then you think about it, you're like, well, to become the president, he had to have been quite ambitious, He had to really go for this thing, and Kevin's never really been there. He's always been quite content with what he has for the most part.
Yeah, you also have the just because he's in the white suit, being a guilty remnant president. It's the idea that like he's in the other one's in the black suit, so it's a very yin and yang kind of thing you got going there visually, which is really cool. Also, the joke with the painting of him in the white suit with the holding the book or whatever it is as he walks in. That was a nice little touch. But no, it all boils down to this novel, and obviously there's moments of humour. Patty's very funny in a very dark way, where she's poking fun at him, where he's like making her read the book, but he's already crushed her glasses, so she's like trying to piece like the broken parts of glass into the frame.
Yeah.
And it's not working, so he's like, oh, for F's sake, and he just grabs the book and says, I'll do it. And he reads out this thing, and it all boils down to what he doesn't want to talk about is that he messed up with Nora because of the way he is. And the funny thing is I think it's very equal. She did too. Like, I feel like they're both guilty of the exact same thing. And I think that's why the flashback at the start shows that, no, they were... Because we said this repeatedly in Season 1. They're perfect for each other. They belong together. But they both screwed it up because they both do this thing where eventually they weren't strangers to each other. Eventually their problems were each other, and they didn't talk about it. So the same thing kind of happened.
They're too similar. You know, we were saying, they're perfect for each other. They were too similar, and they were too right for each other that it ended up causing the problems.
Yeah. So I think this realization, it makes me hopeful we're going to get a really nice happy end, assuming Nora's not vaporized in this machine, which I'm assuming that's what we're going to pick up next episode, I imagine, is see her side of that.
All I'm hanging on to is the end of the first episode of this season.
We saw in the future.
So I'm like, she can't be vaporized.
Exactly.
She can't be gone.
So I'm almost expecting some really heart-wrenching reunions next episode with...
Yeah, I'm expecting it.
Declarations of love, and I won't even be mad and say it's predictable. I just want it. Make me happy, please.
I assume next episode will be like this, but for Nora and her journey to realizing that.
Whatever that journey may be. Yeah.
It'll be her equivalent. It will be most of the next episode.
Can I just say how extreme and silly, but also poignant the visual is of Kevin with his hand up his doppelganger's like stomach, rummaging around the heart, looking for this key for the Doomsday machine.
It's pretty absurd.
It's pretty absurd.
I did kind of love it.
Well, it's kind of making the whole thing literally. He's kind of actually looking into his heart for the answer. Yeah. It's really on the nose, but it really works. But yeah, it all boils down to him accepting what his problem is. Like, he's finally kind of sussed it. Yeah. Which is great. It's great to see that growth, and I think it's actually been there the entire time. Because that's the thing throughout the episode. Like, when he finally talks to Christopher Sunday, he has to like go in at gunpoint to the communications room and make the guy like put him on, who happens to be the Prime Minister of Australia. He's like, oh, you need to teach me the last part of this song so my dad can sing it and stop the rain and save the world. And he's like, there is no... I told that to your dad. Like there is no rain. Do you believe that? And he's like, nah, not really. Like, then why are you here? Why do you keep coming back? Yeah. You know, it's all about him.
And I like that, again, to keep it so you can choose either way. Every answer he gets is always non-committal in either way. Like, he never gets that there is a song, but it's never like... You could still go, well, yeah, he did kind of say that there isn't a song, and, you know, so it could be true.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, John at first is all for him doing it, but then when he comes back for a couple of minutes, even he's changed. Like, Michael seemed concerned the entire time, but now John, like, the second time, is like, oh, maybe we shouldn't. Look at him. He
is. But at the same time, I kind of agree with Kevin Sr. at this point. It's like, nah, you got what you want. You already spoke to Evie, so you don't care anymore. It was personal for you, and maybe he was right.
Yeah, but that's the thing though. When he comes out at the end of the episode, because he goes up onto the roof with Patty, President Kevin, that is, because he's the one who cut into the other one. They're on the roof and like the nukes fall and like everything goes white and he wakes up. Like the rain stopped, like the flood hasn't come, and obviously the visual is very similar to the opening of the season where the woman kept going up on the roof, waiting for something to happen. So the idea that Kevin Senior's sitting up there and nothing's happened, it's like his entire faith has just been like
hit.
And it's almost made me thinking, like, does he have the same problem as Kevin, where he has to believe in some absurd thing to avoid his own problems? Like, that's essentially what he's done his entire life, or at least since the departure, where he's avoided his own problems. Same with Kevin and Nora. Rather than actually talk about what their own issues are, they have to go off and obsess about something else.
It is, and is obviously his materialized through the voices. We learned that a long time ago. Did Kevin also get the voices in this world because that's what he expected, because that's
Yeah.
what had happened to his dad. It was this self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, I can totally see that. And they're just sitting up there, and I think the final line might be "What now?" or "What happens now?" And I don't know.
Yeah.
I've got no idea. And I think that kind of sums up the entire point of the show. Just going back to the departure is like, well, what now after this big event? We have no idea. And it was kind of like they were building up to another one because they had to almost believe another big event was coming to kind of
To give them purpose, doesn't it? Yeah.
to revolve their lives around it. And it's like, well, the world didn't end, so how do we cope now? And you can almost take it as an allegory for a lot of different things. It's like a lot of people feel like Trump being president, oh shit, the world's over. And it's like, well, it's not over, but what do we do now? Like, there has to be a follow through afterwards. Like, how do we cope with this now?
And of course, Kevin learns that lesson in the world, from Patty, where she's like, yeah, look, they're going to wake up tomorrow.
Which, by the way,
and the world's going to be there. So, they're going to have the same problem.
Yeah, we're going to fulfill all their expectations by just blowing up the world.
Which I almost expected. When Kevin woke up, I almost thought there was going to be a flood, and it would be like because he did that almost.
Yeah, because obviously we get this biblical apocalypse about to happen. Theoretically, in the real world, it's almost like, oh, is this kind of affecting it? Is this causing it? If this is real?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of getting those vibes as well. By the way, obviously this finished airing, I think, May, June time this year.
June sounds about right.
Yeah. Did you notice that in the opening... obviously, the music for the opening titles was the Season 1 music, which, to be fair, I never disliked the music of the opening sequence that much. It was more the visuals of it, so I didn't hate hearing it, although...
I liked it a lot to get it back, although I'm thinking, why didn't they save it for next episode?
Yeah, it felt weird not to do it in the finale. Like, what...
I'm like, do they put the Season 2 music next episode? And then I was like, but if they do that, that should have been this one. Work your way back.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I'm sure there was an extra clip in the opening titles. I don't know if you noticed it.
I don't think I did.
That felt very...
I'll be honest, I don't pay that much attention to the opening titles.
And I know, because I've seen them a few times, obviously, over the last two seasons of the various versions of it. And I think there's one where it's like a football field, and there's one of them, like the sort of people have vanished.
Yeah.
The one who vanished is taking a knee. And I thought, was that put in late in the game as a reference to what's going on in the world? Because I think by that point that became a thing.
Yeah, well done.
And I was just thought, that was a neat little kind of last minute addition there.
Yeah, easy for them to do.
Yeah, it's an easy thing. Yeah, done.
Like I said, I didn't catch it, but I kind of tune out of the opening credits a little bit. I'm like, okay, yeah, I listen to the music, but I'm not looking at the images as much anymore because they say I've seen it 20 odd times.
And I think that's why I jumped to that Trump comparison. Was it feels like the world's over, but how do we cope now? It's actually still here, and then the day after. So what do we do going forward? And the show largely is kind of about that. It's about dealing with the big thing that happened and how.
It's all about again to literally like you're saying to Trump. It's literally about how do you deal with loss. It's like you lose someone in your family and that's tragic. But it's not the end of your life. You have to keep going. So it's what now? What do you do now? You've got to do something.
That's kind of the point of it. I mean, the title obviously literally means the leftovers because they're left behind, but just the leftovers and like everyone when you're left behind after anything big that happens, like you're still here. How do you cope with that? And obviously, this departure that happens is so huge and monumental and affected everyone in some way.
Yeah, so everyone's affected at the same time. But everyone will experience this throughout their life. Is the point?
Yeah. So very strong episode in that sense. I think it was. I don't think I like it quite as much as the first time we did this, the assassin episode.
I agree. Although I'm not gonna lie, when I hear that music come back in, that big operatic piece that we got a lot in that first one in this world, and it comes in again here. I was like, oh yeah.
Because as soon as he wakes up in the ocean at the start, you just hear the opening notes come in.
Yeah. But it comes in like 3 or 4 times throughout the episode. I'm like, it's just that's how I think of this place now. Is that piece of music? It symbolizes this world.
Yeah. So no, I think it was a really strong episode. I think there's a lot to, like I say, I think there's a lot of small Easter eggs and jokes you can sort of look for. And
do you know the thing I'm probably most glad about? You know how after the last episode we were saying, I really don't want them to...
I know the moment you're about to talk about is when they're saying, oh, the vice president, she's here, and they open the door, and we wait for like 10 seconds waiting for the vice president, and I was like, okay, please don't be Laurie. I don't want it to be Laurie.
I was the same. I was like, don't be Laurie, because A, that confirms this is real, because that would mean that she'd have to be, like...
Yeah, because
Kevin doesn't know.
Yeah, he has to know that they're dead if this is fake for this to work. Yeah,
exactly. And B, I don't want to know. I don't want it confirmed either way. I just want them to leave it. So I was so relieved to see Liv Tyler. I've never felt more relief.
Because I almost even speculated as I was thinking this, is even Nora, is this how he finds out Nora's, like if this is real, is this how he finds out Nora's actually dead because she's here or something like that. But Meg was, no, he knows Meg makes sense. Meg still works with
everything. Thank God, that is just Liv Tyler, that works. And
that also, it's just nice to bring her back because she was especially a big part of the first season. And she's not had as much, she didn't have as much to do in season 2, and she's definitely had...
She still had a pretty important role come the end of season 2.
Yeah, just in terms of time though, screen time though, she was kind of missing for most of it.
Yeah.
And then season 3 she had one scene at the start, so it was nice to have her back to say goodbye essentially.
Agreed.
Which we did by Kevin shooting on the head.
Yeah, and it feels the same with Patty, even though like we had the goodbye with Patty last season. Obviously it was such a one of the standout moments of the show. Even now it's like, okay, this was one last time, one last hurrah. It's like, okay, we're going out.
Yeah, we're seeing everyone, which is the fun thing about this place. Because we saw Evie again. You know, we have the scene with he's like, no, I'm talking to that girl. Get her in the car, and we're riding alone. Because even the thing in there where she's like, oh no, I didn't die. Like, you killed my parents. You ordered that airstrike that killed all my family. Like I'm the one who's left behind. That was an interesting touch.
It was, and I think it was a way of him. Again, if it was his mind, rationalizing how she felt, why she did these things, because she felt like she was the forgotten one.
Yeah. Even just the idea that she was protesting against the guilty remnant. She was the outsider. She was the one fighting back. Yeah. Maybe it's just the idea that she would always be the one fighting back, no matter what.
She would always rebel against the establishment, regardless of who that was. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I love when Kevin realizes the president, because he's doing the speech and he's not really sure what's going on.
It's really clear, like immediately, or I thought it was.
To us I think it is, but I think just because he's just teleported across the world, so he's disoriented, he's confused. He's reading the speech, and it's right when it says, "Oh, we put something into legislation," whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Shit, I'm the president," and everyone just started cheering.
Yeah. And it's again, this manages to be funny. This episode, even when it's doing all these big things, like the twin brother joke, when Secret Service guy's like, yeah, well, no one's getting in here unless you've got an identical twin brother. And then obviously when he's talking to Patty, he's like, well, how are they going to get in? And it's like, because he's a twin brother. It's just that realization.
It's not actually having the humor kind of works as well, because the whole idea of like him battling depression and battling these demons. People use humor, so it actually kind of works in that sense as well.
It's the same to go back to the dick scanner, and I know we keep coming back to it, but it's the absurdity of it, isn't it? That it's funny. Even to him, it's kind of funny because it's stupid.
Oh, it's really stupid. Yeah, that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
No, just have to whip it out in broad daylight. You feel like if you're going to have that, have a little room you go into first, and then have the big secure door that lets you in. You have a bit of privacy.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, out broad daylight, whip it out, get it on there.
Why not? Look, clearly he's a confident man.
No. I'm not counting this one as being in Australia.
Piss off.
No, Australia. He's in all place land.
His body is in Australia.
He's in Wonderland.
His body is in Australia. We start in Australia, we end in Australia, the middle is in Australia. He is in Australia the whole time physically. It counts.
That beach wasn't in Australia. He was in a different country. When he woke up. In other land. I
don't care where he is in other land.
Look, I'm grasping at straws. Let me grasp, God damn it.
No, I'm winning this. I'm having this. It is settled. I've already won.
What a stupid prediction that was. It was so stupid. It was so insane. Just because one character went to Australia, maybe the rest of the show they'll all go to Australia. It was such a stupid prediction when you made it. I cannot believe. So right. I cannot believe that season 3 has been so Australia focused. It is baffling to me that this happened.
Well, I should make more stupid predictions.
And the rest will all be wrong. It'll be like they'll forever be wrong. There'll just be this one really ridiculous one you got right.
One but I'm going to cling on to this forever. You know that, right? It'll be like, hey, remember Australia?
Oh my! I don't even know what to say. That's the thing. Oh my god! Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up? Any small points that I've glossed over?
No, I think we've covered all of that. A lot of fun, very good episode still, but like you say, not quite the best. Even though like that moment at the end where he's talking to himself is up there. It's a great.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic. When I said it wasn't the best, I was just comparing it to the previous.
Yeah, like it's still a very good episode, but it's not in the top few episodes of the show.
No, whereas I think the International Assassin episode might be the best episode of the show. Maybe I'd have to really think about it. But
I don't want to just say that outright.
Top three.
It's top 3 to 5 at very least.
Yeah, there's only 20 episodes total, so I'm confident saying top 3. But yeah. Anyway, so that is episode 7. So we've got one left. We are almost completed this journey. So hopefully
we'll do this.
Yeah, hopefully that will be next week. If something happens that delays it, if something somehow delays it, I will make the absolute guarantee. I bet Connor's life on it. I will sacrifice him live on the internet if this has not happened. But it will be done by the end of the year. Yes.
Yeah. This year. We are doing it this year.
Do you know what? We're going to if we do miss next week, we're going to record it when we can, and then I'm just going to put it up on Christmas Day. Here you go, Merry Christmas. Leftovers is finished.
I mean, you could do that. I thought you do New Year's Eve. It's like, all right, we'll see. It was this year.
11:59 Australian time, because he'll be first.
Yeah.
I don't want some Australian person being like, "Hey, there was 2018 when I got it."
It's incredibly relevant to do it Australian time for this season.
Unfortunately, so. Let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mail_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. You can do that over there. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching. Keep watching TV. We'll see you next time.